Hey guys, welcome back to this YouTube channel. You're going to take a look at the data for townhouses now for a mid-month update. That's middle of May. And 2 weeks ago, we looked at the market update of May, looking back into April by the Calgary Real Estate Board. But as far as the Calgary market goes, a lot of things change almost every single week. And so instead of just waiting around for the June market report, which will look at May data, let's see how so far the market has changed, what is shifting, and so that you are better prepared ahead of the trends, and you are able to be more proactive than reactive, which I love for my buyers and sellers. And this is more a raw type video. It's not super edited. It's going to look at all the graphs that I generally monitor on a weekly basis, the data that I put into the back end of the spreadsheets, and sort of calculate where the longer term trends are going. And it looks just not at the last 2 weeks, but also what's been happening over the last 3 months and how the buyer and seller sentiment has shifted. So it does look into slightly different kind of stats to understand what the emotions are, because at the end of the day, the housing market is really driven by how the buyers and sellers feel about the market, and what they're mostly driven by emotions, right? So what's the sentiment like? And this will give you a better idea on how to position yourself and take full advantage of the market, and which parts of the market are best suited depending what you're looking for. So without further ado, let's take a look at the townhouse data. Now, of course, I'm just going to go more overview, and then also we're going to look at the different districts. But if you're looking at specific communities, make sure you reach out so that we can analyze those data points specifically for you. Because while it's okay to understand how Calgary operates overall, specific communities do operate a little bit differently. Those are microeconomies, and so you got to understand what the buyer and seller sentiment is for those parts of the market. So let's take a look at these graphs. So right over here, you will notice on the top left, we have the price drop. So that's the number of price drops and how much price drops have been happening. And this goes all the way back to the middle of Jan. And when it comes to the top right, it's the above and below list price. So how much are people paying above or below list price, and to what extent? So, and the bottom left is days on market, DOM, and that just shows you how long a property is sitting on the market, and the red is the trend line for it. And then finally on the bottom right, you have the sold price versus stat date. So here you can clearly tell how the sold price has been trending. Now, one caveat, I have limited the properties by all of those below 750,000 as sold price, because I want to focus more on the mainstream, the affordable part of the market. Of course, there's going to be townhouses that sell for $1.5, $2 million, but those are not truly reflective of the majority of the buyer sentiment and where the market's going to be shifting. So this limits it. I think 750,000 is a very fair amount for generally what people in townhouse sector is looking for. It's a little bit lenient if you ask me. I would actually limit it to more 550, 600,000, but let's go with 750. And just to get rid of the anomalies, I've also limited the amount of price drops between 150,000, because obviously, if you're dropping the price of a property in townhouse for more than 100,000, you clearly made a mistake. So I think this is very, very fair for something that's priced at 750,000. And even for price increases, I've limited it to 150 on the upside. And so let's take a look at what's happening. Overall, if you look at the trends, clearly the amount of price drops have been diminishing over time, and we've been heading towards that zero mark, especially over the last 1 month, and then pretty much stayed there. It looks like there's a slight deviation away from that zero mark, but that's just because a few more properties recently saw price drops. So that would be just wait and see kind of thing, how the trends proceed as we go ahead. As far as the properties selling above and below this price, you can see here we saw a very sharp increase in the first 2 to 3 months. And then after that, it's been pretty much a sideways movement for townhouses. Not to say that it's getting lower, because as we can see, it's not about this, even though the saturation has found its sort of balance point. We see a very high saturation of people paying above list price, but it has found its sort of balance point where it's not increasing up anymore. So the magnitude has also found its balance at around 100,000 as the most someone is willing to pay above list price for townhouse. And then as far as the saturation goes, even that, you can see a huge amount of saturation over here in the last 1 month. As far as days on market goes, Days on markets diminished significantly from the start of the year and then just started trending sideways. And as far as sold price, so sold price also saw its peak around the start of April and then has pretty much been trending sideways. This little dip, I don't think it's worth considering just because we would have to wait a little bit more data, because given how much pressure is on the days on market and above below list price, I would say this is going to continue sideways, and I don't think it would continue trending down. So I wouldn't read into that too much. Now, looking at the specific districts, as you can see, so overall, clearly townhouses still very, very strong segment of the market, very high buyer demand, and sellers are not pricing their property necessarily wrong, and the market has sort of found its balance point. So going over here, and if we want to start looking at specific districts and how townhouses are performing in those districts, that will give you a better understanding of, depending on where you're looking for a property, how properties are performing. Because again, there's not one single size that fits all. So as far as paying above and below list price, that has actually started trending a little bit down. It'll probably go sideways once we get a bit more data. But the sold price has definitely trended down, and this is a significant amount of data to clearly say that it is a trend, because it's all the way from 1 month ago that it has been trending down in city center. And I think that is also reflective in the days of market slightly trending up here. It's very slight, but it's noticeable. And so then that also reflects in the people paying above below list price. So this could either continue, or new data could change it a little bit. Let's start taking a look at East. So East still remains pretty strong. The sold price is continuing to trend up significantly. Each of these minor segments is $50,000. So since the start of the year, East has seen a $50,000 increase. As far as the trend line price goes, as far as selling above and below this price, still a very strong trend upwards. Days on market diminishing down. And definitely East, we have less data than city center, but it's enough to create a trend. Taking a look at North. In the North, again, same high amount of demand, people paying, not just a lot of people paying above this price, but also to a large extent, right? We are seeing that continue to go upwards. So more and more people are paying above this price. As far as days on market, that's trending sideways and starting to trend up a little bit. So that would put a tiny bit of downward pressure on the sold price right over here. But it seems like it's just for the last 1.5 weeks. So it's not enough to say it's a trend. And we'll have to wait and see how that affects the sold price going forward. As you can see, there's clearly not enough data to say a trend in the sold price, because there's just 1 point of data. Taking a look at Northeast, and let's see how data does for Northeast. So right over here for Northeast, we can see obviously the days on market is starting to trend back up, like we are seeing in a lot of other districts. And the above and below list price is also trending down. It does not affect the magnitude. So for the properties that people are willing to pay significantly above, it's still pretty high, but the frequency has dropped. So the amount of people actually paying above this price in Northeast has significantly dropped. And then now that is reflective in the sold price. Now the shift in days on market is pretty recent. Like as we can see, it's mostly in the last 2 weeks. So let's see if that trend continues, but that has definitely affected the sold price. So the sold price has started declining down a little bit. And so the market's clearly cooling down there. Take a look at the Northwest. So Northwest, as you can see, the above and below list price clearly pretty strong. Even as far as the sold price goes, it's still trending mostly sideways, but going up a slight amount. And the days on market is obviously putting more pressures on that sold price. So days on market continues trending down, but not as rapidly as before. So it's mostly starting to trend sideways, but we will see how that changes going forward. The above below list price is reflecting the exact same. So days on market really plays a big factor in terms of the amount of inventory. And I think the moment inventory picks up, you're going to see it's either through people doing more listings or buyers backing off a little bit, allowing for houses to accumulate on the market, and then that reflects then on the sold price. So after Northwest, let's take a look at South. So in the south, you can see very similar days on market starting to trend up a little bit. However, the above below list price is actually also reflective of that. So it's starting to trend down, similar to other things. And the sold price is actually taking a bigger hit when it comes to south. So in the south, obviously, I think you'd have a better chance because the frequency of people paying above below list has also dropped, but also the magnitude is starting to drop. Here you had people paying almost nearly 100,000. So this is closer to like 90,000 above this price initially 1 month ago, but now that has significantly dropped to about the 50,000 being the max. So I think there's good opportunity there, and maybe this trend will actually continue because now there's clearly more than a month of data supporting that thesis. After South, let's take a look at Southeast, how things in Southeast. Southeast was extremely hot when it came to townhouses. And it looks like as far as the sold price goes, that still remains relatively strong. We're not seeing a huge shift or correction yet. However, the days on market increase is pretty more significant than the other parts of the market, the other quadrants. So I think the sold price is going to correct pretty quickly if this trend continues, because the days on market here is pretty high compared to before. And that is already reflective in actually the above and below list price. So far more competitive 1 month ago, where people were paying above 50,000, so closer to 60, 70,000. It seems like over the last 1 month that has dropped. The max we've actually seen is 50,000. And the sold price, even though it continues to trend up slightly strongly, here it does look like it's flattening out a little bit. Now, whether that's a trend or just not enough data, we will see as we go forward. After Southeast, taking a look at West. So West was the strongest part of the market, and it looks like it still potentially is after Northwest, because the days on market is increasing, but not as rapidly. But that is then reflective in the above and below list price. So lesser people paying above and below list price compared to the amount of saturation that we saw less than a month ago. And actually, no, 2 months ago, because it was middle of March when we saw the huge saturation of people paying above this price. So that has definitely dropped. But now for the properties that people are paying above list price, it's still pretty significant. So 50,000 and up. And then when we come to looking at the sold price, we can see the trend line is starting to trend up, trend sideways. So very strong trend at the start of the year, but over the last, I would say 1.5 months, it has started flattening out. And I think that's enough of a trend to say that the market is shifting even in townhouses. So like you can see here, this is extremely useful data to understand different parts of the market, different communities. And depending on what you're looking for, we can customize a lot more things and understand. What is interesting is to understand even like when you change the condo fee restriction, because a lot of people limit how much condo fee they're willing to pay. You start seeing much stronger trends on that lower condo fee area versus the higher condo fees. So there are a lot of things that drive and affect the market, and to understand where you stand as a buyer, seller, or investor is very, very important. The other thing that I look into and monitor to understand market sentiment is to understand how price drops, price increases are happening over time, and how the buyers are actually reacting to that, because that then speaks to the market sentiment, the emotions that buyers are going through, and the little dance between buyers and sellers, and where they find that middle point of being able to make a transaction. So this, as you can see here, is the past 4 months of data of price drops, price increases, or no changes. So month 1 on the top left, then month 2 below it, month 3 on the top right, and month 4. Feel free to pause and read into this a bit more. But as you can see, for each of those, I have the amount of price drops, price increases, or no change to price. That's the list price. And the buyers, whether they're paying above list price, below list price, or they're paying at list price. And then for the properties that actually see the price drops, increases, or changes, how does that compare with them paying above, below list price? So what do we observe in terms of trends? I'll just read through this for you so that you understand what the interpretation for this is. So actually those people who are paying above and below this price, overall, it's been pretty consistent for the last 3 months. So the market has found a very well balanced point. So as you can see, in month 2 here, we hit 61% for those paying above list price and 29% for those paying below list price. And then that has pretty much actually remained very consistent. 61 here, 61 here, 27, 27. So it's found its balance there. However, there is a slow increase in the price drops happening and price increases happening. So in terms of price drops right over here, we actually were at 7.52% in month 2 and 1.7% for increases. That then changed to 8.68 and 9.33, and even the price increases increased from 1.95 to 3.25. So this has been 3 months of trend, and so clearly the properties that are being priced, they either require price drops or increases, and we saw the days on market increasing. So there's a more of corrections actually required to get those properties off the market, and sellers are basically adjusting for that. And another thing we are seeing is a return to trend in buyers actually paying above list price for properties that then see a drop. So for example, for the amount of properties that saw a drop in price, so starting here, so price drop and above list, we were at 15.69%. So this is after a property has seen a price drop. Did the buyer actually pay above list price? So 15.69% for the first month here. That then changed to 16.13. And that saw a huge increase. And we saw that saturation of people paying above list price and everything a month and a half ago or a month ago. And that's what this was. And now we've seen that correct back down to 13.95%. So that has started trending back to where the longer term average is. And also properties that actually saw no change in price, still seeing buyer pay more than list. So clearly, overall, remains a very strong segment of the market. It has found its balance overall. So right over here, if you see no change and above list price, so initially it was 57%, then it changed to 65% of people paying above list price, dropped a little bit to 64, but then increased back to 67. So longer term, there is a clear upward trend for even properties that are seeing no price changes, but then selling above list price. And so overall, March and April was a euphoric month for this segment of the market. Market behavior is mostly stable month over month, and townhouses have started seeing declines in certain segments, certain sectors, certain quadrants, but overall still very strong. Buyers still paying above list price, not as much in terms of frequency and volume, but high in terms of magnitude. And so if you found this data valuable and you thought it added some insight and helped you in your journey to either buy, sell, or invest in the Calgary real estate market, make sure you reach out, because I have a lot more in depth that we can get into with these graphs, because I can get into also just not quadrants. And I would love to do this with you because I do it with my buyers, as getting into the specific communities. So for example, if we've picked West, you can actually get into the specific communities that you are looking into and observe how the trends for those communities are. And then that helps you be more proactive and not just responsive to the market, because by the time the data then gets to you, it's too late and everyone is reacting to it. So I would love to get on a call with you guys, run through this. I love data. I'm a very data-oriented realtor, and I understand making smart decisions, and not just every time is the best time to buy and every time is the best time to sell. That's completely wrong. There's a right time depending on what your plan, your goals are, and what best suits your needs. So I would love to help set you up with success. If you found this video valuable, definitely drop a like. Make sure to share it with someone who might find it useful. It helps the algorithm, helps me help reach more people like you and help more people. And till next time, till the next market update, which is in the next 15 days. I'll see you guys then on that video, and all the very best in the Calgary real estate market. Till then, take care.